Welcome to the Caffeine Stream on Caffeine and Philosophy.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the Caffeine Stream. This is episode 63?
63.
63, that's right. It's been a minute. So we're here to talk about...
Who's we?
Who's we? I don't know. Who are you? What are you doing in my house? What did you do with my wife? So we're here to talk about, my wife's favorite movie, and you're going to join me in that.
Yes. Okay, hang on.
This is my wife's here.
To be clear, okay, so hang on. I actually have very strong opinions on this. So of the Disney Renaissance era, my favorite Disney Renaissance movie is Tarzan. Unequivocally. The music, Phil Collins, shut the fuck up. But my second favorite one is the other one with an extremely muscular white man, and that's Hercules. So technically, of the Renaissance movies, it is my second favorite.
You'll have to explain Renaissance to me in a minute. But the impetus for this was actually the comments of a friend of mine, an English friend, who was saying,
I also love English people, so it's all coming up great for me.
I'll read his messages here without his permission too. He says Disney Hercules is absolutely full of allusions to the original texts. And then he has some quotes. Achilles, now that guy had it all. The build, the foot speed. I think that was a quote from Phil.
Yep.
There's a bunch of references.
Is a terrific character.
There's a bunch of references to the actual 12 labors too. Nessus kidnaps Megara. In the original, he kidnaps his wife. I respect it despite it not being faithful to the original because they clearly did the research and put in all the allusions they could while keeping it kid-friendly. There is so much to say about that comment as it pertains to translations and faithfulness to the original. What qualifies as faithfulness to the spirit of the original, which is its own big, very annoying question when it comes to things like Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings and various translations.
Emily Wilson of Homer. Which I just was looking to see, do you have an entire podcast episode on that? Because
I think I do. I'll continue going on. My friend says, the training montage song is absolutely genius. Don't believe the stories that you read on all the crockery. Obviously, referring to the Black Figure paintings. You need an advisor, a satyr, but wiser. I've been out to pasture
merchandiser.
Yes. We'll get into all this stuff. He actually takes out the Cyclops' eye with a burning stake. And he says this really is the official movie of solar idealism, which I think he meant that kind of as a joke.
But
there are some hints there. There are some themes coming from the original stories and the notions of heroism that are faithfully conveyed in this Disney adaptation. So for people who have not seen Disney's adaptation of Hercules, Sierra, why don't you give us a brief rundown of the plot?
Yes. Okay. So first of all, the music is done by Alan Menken, who did all of the good Disney Renaissance movies and gave us the absolute horrifying yet terrific bangers from Hunchback of Notre Dame as well. But Alan Menken's music is terrific. And then the premise is we are following the plot of Hercules. So it opens with the birthday scene up on Mount Olympus. All the gods are there. Everyone's been invited, including Hades, to I don't know if they're doing a christening or it's just his birthday, but anyway, There's baby Hercules. And Hades is plotting to... Hades wants to get out from the underworld. He's the oldest brother and he got sent to the underworld. And so he wants to shake things up, right? And so after this birthday party where he's like very irritated, and I have so many random bits of lore about this movie because, what's his name? Tom Woods? No.
I don't know. Let's not go on tangents just yet. Let's save the tangents for later.
The guy who did the voice of Hades was not who they expected. He was hilarious, and they meant to have him be a very serious character.
He's
But
one of the
anyway,
best Disney villains.
so
Like, ever.
good. So he goes back to after the party. He's all mad because Zeus is being Zeus. He heads down to the underworld, has a meeting with the Fates, who are three women who share one eyeball and a giant pair of rusty scissors, and they know the past, the future, and the present, and they can cut people's life strings, right? And so they deliver to him this prophecy that at the appointed time, 18 years from now, he will be able to overthrow Zeus. But if Zeus's son Hercules fights, you will fail. So, of course, he sends his two little dumb henchmen to go and not kill Hercules, because you can't kill a god.
Well, they did want to kill him.
They were going to kill him, but you can't kill a god. So you first must make him mortal. So they send him off with a bottle of mortal potion to feed to the baby. They got to catch this baby and feed him, and then kill him. But they didn't manage to get the very last drop, like Achilles' heel. They didn't get him all the way in. They didn't drink all of the potion, so one drop of potion didn't make it. So he retained his godlike strength, and when they couldn't kill him because he's not immortal, he is mortal, but they were found. The reason it doesn't matter anyway. The point is they weren't able to get the last drop of potion. Hercules, who still retained his super strength,
sort of
gets captured, gets
casually fights off the demons as they try to kill him. He just like
baby
play toys, just tosses them off.
And it's very realistic because even regular toddlers have super baby strength grip anyway. But
their grip shape was ridiculous. Yeah.
So he gets picked up by a farmer and his wife who have been praying to the gods for a child. We flash forward. He's like gangly 16-year-old who's freakishly strong, trying to help his farmer adopted dad, and just making mayhem everywhere because he doesn't know his own strength, right? And so he goes to a Parthenon type thing, some kind of building and whatever. I'm not exactly sure what part of the country he's supposed to be in, but anyway, he goes to Zeus's foot in the
Temple of Zeus.
The Temple of Zeus, and he sings his "Go the Distance" song, which is his Disney "I Want" song, of I want to be somewhere where I belong.
It's really a "Who Am I" song.
Yeah, it's more of a "Who Am I" song than an "I Want" song. And so then he goes to Zeus and he prays to him, and he's like, "Who am I? What am I supposed to do here? I feel like I don't fit in. I just make mayhem everywhere I go." Mm-hmm. Zeus comes to life and says, "Hey, you're my son. Here's your Pegasus, and it's your job to become immortal again by doing something heroic to be made back into a god." Mm. And so he goes on a quest to find, which is hysterical, and he is a very small satyr, so he's half goat, half man, on an island somewhere. So him and Pegasus travel to go find Philoctetes. Philoctetes is begrudgingly willing to take him on as a student, so we get a whole training montage, super fun. He becomes buff, he learns how to protect damsels and stuff like that. And then at the end of that training montage, we go out into the world and we go to Thebes. And they call it the Big Olive itself. And once we meet Phil, we get a whole overlay of the Greek world being like New York. So we go to Thebes and it's very New York coded, hey, I'm walking here, and you want to buy a sundial and instead of a watch, and these kinds of things. So very funny, but also making the Grecianness relatable by calling it, New York, which in the ancient world, probably Thebes might have been. So anyway, along the way he meets Meg, who has been taken by a centaur, who's some kind of river demon, and using his super strength, he saves her and thwarts the centaur and takes Megara on with him to Thebes. Well, along the way, we get a little sidebar to find out that Meg has been working with Hades because her long-lost love, and this is more Greek lore stuff, her love had chosen another woman, and I forget exactly the details, but she traded herself to get her love back, and somehow that put her into Hades' debt.
I think her husband or boyfriend died, and she offered her service to or was dying, and she offered her service or her soul or something to save him, And then he
Oh.
came back. He was
Oh,
saved,
yeah.
but then he went off with another
Then he went
woman.
off with another woman. But she's still in debt to Hades. So she was supposed to be
Right.
there to enchant the big, ugly centaur to get him to fight with Hades to against Olympus in the oncoming in the battle that is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when she has to reveal to him, like, yeah, no, I got saved by this guy, Hercules. And he's like, what do you mean, Hercules? So now his little henchmen have to reveal, like, well, technically we didn't kill him. So, back to Thebes. We cut back to Hercules. Now that we know that Hercules is alive, Hades is like, well, we gotta kill this dude. So, they contrive a scenario there in Thebes for him to test his strength. This is a great opportunity as far as Hercules is concerned to fight what is that monster called?
The Hydra?
The Hydra. But it's a Hydra sent by Hades. So, of course, he starts cutting off heads, and then the heads grow back 3 times as many and stuff. Ultimately, he's able to kill the monster and thwarts Hades and wins the hearts and minds of everyone in Thebes. But now
that transitions into a bit of a montage of him
succeeding, yeah,
doing all kinds of. It's sort of a short and condensed expression of the 12 labors.
Yeah,
they kind of cut out the original source material cause of that, but
yeah, there's
to
not
keep
a lot
it
of
kid
killing
friendly.
his entire family and things like
Right.
that. But we do get to the end where he's like, now he's unbelievably wealthy. We have the tremendous song Zero to Hero, where they talk about how he gets all these riches, he's getting all this glory, monetary glory.
Team A.
And now he's got Air Hercs, and it's all, again, very 90s coded. So instead of Air Jordans, they're Air Hercs, and he's got his own Gatorade brand and Hercade and all this kind of stuff. So, like, very fun, merchandisey, whatever, modern sports star. And so while he's getting his black figure painting done of himself, wearing a lion, if you notice, he's wearing a lion.
He's wearing Scar from the Lion King.
Yeah, he's wearing Scar from the Lion King. During his painting. And so Meg shows up because, again, Hades has been throwing these monsters at him, or helping to throw these monsters at him. We get the clear impression throughout all of his trials that Hades is like trying to get him killed already, and he keeps getting thwarted because Hercules keeps winning. And so finally he sends the last thing he has, which is Meg. So Meg goes in and is like, hey, don't you want to play hooky? They go and have their whirlwind evening, spending time together. They're so in love, and like, Meg is catching real feelings. Have a little song about it. Philoctetes is like, get the hell out of here, witch. I have figured out that you're working with Hades against my guy. Get out of here. Herc is completely uninterested.
Why are you calling him Herc?
We're buds, man. So Hercules goes to go train, because that's what you do after you have a hot date. You go back to the gym and you lift weights and stuff. And your trainer is over here like, bro, she's about to betray you. Like, she is not what she says she is. She doesn't really love you. And Hercules is like, shut the hell up. Shut the hell up. I'm not interested. I'm going to do what I want. You don't know anything, fat little goat man. And how does it? That's when they have like their last.
Yeah.
It's Hades' last attempt to get Hercules out of the way so that he can go have his bite. Oh, that's what it is. Hades shows up and finally approaches Hercules. Hercules has sent Philoctetes away, and now Hades appears in front of Hercules and says, listen, your girl, I've captured your girl. I will kill her if you go into this fight. If you I will keep her safe and make sure that nothing happens to her if you trade all of your strength and you don't fight for a day.
For one day.
And he's willing to make this exchange to keep Meg safe. So he becomes weak and doesn't fight. So then Hades goes and releases the Titans. Very exciting. We're going to go lay siege to Mount Olympus. The gods all assemble. What's his name? Hermes runs around going, IXII, IXII, which would be Roman numerals for 911. And they start, battling against the Titans. and it's not going great. And all kinds of mayhem and the Cyclops are laying waste to all kinds of cities and stuff. And Hercules can't do anything about it. People are like, Hercules is here, he'll save us. But he's not taking any action because he's got no strength. And so, along the way,
He still tries to fight.
But he still tries to fight, and he's like, he's trying, but it's not going well. Like, he's not doing anything. And even the Cyclops seems to recognize him and is like, oh, little Hercules,
Yeah.
But then
Meg gets injured.
Meg gets injured. She gets smashed under
and eventually
column.
dies. And when she dies,
Hang on, no. When she gets
injured.
Yeah, when the column falls on her, he goes to lift it, and all his strength and power comes back to him.
Because Hades'
promise was broken. So now he's got his strength back. But it's not enough. She still dies. So obviously, Hercules is going to tear some shit up now because, my girl just died.
So then he fights.
So then he fights.
They're able to fend off the Titanic attack on Olympus.
Right.
And which was not going well for the Olympians until Hercules shows up.
Comes. And then Hercules comes to Hades and demands, "Give me Meg back.
Mm-hmm.
You broke your promise." And he's given some mealy mouth. He gives some mealy mouth energy in there, and goes all the way down to the underworld to go fetch her. And he goes to he just dives into the river to go get her. He's like, you can't stop me. I'm gonna go get her.
And which should kill him.
And the Fates are there with his string and their big scissors. But exactly at the moment when they go to finally cut the scissors, his string has turned gold. He's regained his immortality because he went to save Meg from death.
Mm-hmm.
And he's able to bring her out too. And now he has returned to his godlike status. He brings Meg to Olympus, meets Dad, or whatever, and then decides, no, I want to live on Earth with her, which I think is obviously like the very Disney storybook ending. I'm pretty sure he either kills her or gets another wife anyway because he's Hercules in the original. But
we're talking about the Disney story.
That's not the Disney story. So anyway, that's how it ends with the song A Star is Born, and that's the premise of Disney's Hercules.
Yeah, and there's so much... I worry sometimes if like everything I do is just going to converge upon being an advertisement for Greg Nosh's Ancient Greek Hero, but there's so many good themes here. As my friend pointed out,
that book is approximately 10 pounds. So and I mean that as a physical weight. Yeah. So most people are not going to buy it. Don't worry.
Yeah. So like
keep advertising.
There's so many like themes in here. I'm going to try to follow the rule of 3. Can I pick out 3? The first theme that we see, I feel like is like really sticks out in this film is this idea of seasonality. And what we see in Hercules' early life is this sense of not belonging, of being unseasonal, not knowing who he is. He's out of time and place. Something that Greg Nosh points out that's very interesting about Hercules in particular as it relates to this notion of seasonality. The word seasonality in Greek is hora. It's where we get our word hour from. It refers to time, it refers to timeliness, being at the right place at the right time. It's also the word that we get Hera from. Hera is associated with the harvest and with the seasons and things like that as well. Hera, Zeus's wife.
And also Hercules' mom, right?
In the Disney version, yes.
I think, yeah.
In the real story, Hera is actually something of an antagonist. And this is actually a theme we see in many heroic stories, is their name and their identity is actually antagonistic with some god. So with Achilles, it's Apollo. Achilles is very like Apollo in many ways, but there's an antagonism between the two. Same thing with Hercules. Hercules has an antagonistic relationship with Hera. For the most part, she's the one that's trying to kill him and drives him crazy and stuff. But ultimately, his name, Heracleos, is the glory of Hera. And he is the embodiment of like the seasonality, the timeliness. He has in this movie, there's a precise moment that he will be needed, that he is needed. And it's not in defeating all the monsters, although he's very useful. That's very good training. The moment is in saving Olympus. That is his time. And that is the season that Hades tries to interrupt. Tries to say, to prevent him from being ready for that moment. But he is able to pass through that and to succeed in spite of that. Out of devotion. Another theme that comes to mind. I should go get the knowledge book so I can remember these a little bit better. But the other theme that comes to mind is this idea of, well, let's talk about Kleos. We already talked about Hera and Hora and seasonality. Let's talk about Kleos, the glory. Like your portrayal of he's like a sports star and merchandising all this stuff. It humanizes what that Kleos, what that glory actually is. And when you said
it modernizes it,
yeah, it brings it into like our. And this
makes it relatable.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that like I get into arguments with people about the Emily Wilson translation, who say it should be accessible. It's like, well, yes, there's a way to make these stories accessible to a modern audience that's good, and there's a way to make it accessible to the modern audience that conveys your hatred for the protagonist, which is what Emily Wilson's doing. We don't need to get into that, but like, I feel like
all of your collected works for your opinions on that.
I feel like the Disney work, as my friend pointed out, they clearly did their homework, and they're trying to make it accessible to a fairly young audience, but in a way that does justice to the spirit of the actual stories. And the thematic continuity that we see is, I think, the evidence of that sincerity, and the evidence of the care that they put into conveying this with what's the word? With the right spirit.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, a digression there. The modernizing of this idea of glory. And Time, I said before, Time is like material art. It's like trophies you win. It's the evidence of your successes. But Kleos is not Time. Kleos is glory. It's the stories people tell about you. And it's the mechanism by which people sought to become immortal. Where I'm going to become so famous that people remember my name forever. In stories and songs or crockery or
Disney movies.
Or Disney movies, as the case may be. Yes, precisely. And but how do you achieve Kleos? How do you achieve that kind of glory that it causes you to be immortalized, we might say? Well, great deeds are pretty good, but the real way to do it, according to the Greeks, was sacrifice. And we could get into a whole conversation about therapon and the ritual substitute and all that. We don't need to do that here. I think that the more important concept in the Greek is the idea of sozein or soter, which is to be a savior. And there is a sacrificial connotation to that. We see that with Achilles. We actually see it with Patroclus in the Iliad. But ultimately, Achilles chooses death. He knows the result of his actions to fight to save the Greeks will be his own death. But he does that regardless. And he saves them from Hector. He saves them. He is a savior. And that's what's so beautiful about the Disney show. It's the moment he decides to sacrifice himself to save someone else, that's the thing that makes him immortal. And there's something very thematically correct about that. From both the story of, well, especially the Iliad, but I think I'm actually less familiar with the story of Hercules, less familiar than I should be, but it fits with Greg Naj's concept of the hero that he presents in that work.
I want to take your last theme, and I want to just specifically talk about the lyrics to some of these songs. I think Alan Menken wrote all of these. No, Roger Bart is the singer. Yeah. So one of the things that I watched honestly, I used to really like Lindsay Ellis's film analysis videos from like probably 10 or 15 years ago. They were actually pretty good before she got canceled. And like, she's annoying, but some of her takes are pretty good. Anyway, she had one on this movie, and I remember what she was talking about there was that from the viewpoint of a good quality Disney story arc, Hercules is a bit messy. Like, if it weren't for the fact that these songs are banging and that the gospels sung by, there's something again with the clever modernization while also making it relatable to the original text. The character of the muses who introduce the beginning of the story and tell us the plot of the story from the very beginning as the movie's opening, and who carry us variously through the movie later, and they sing I won't say I'm in love with Meg and whatever, right? So like the muses continue to be a character throughout the movie. They're portrayed as a 5-gal presumably black kind of gospel style singing group like you might have in like the Bronx or somewhere, right? They're very fun and their songs are really good. But
And by the way, just as a digression, Greg Knowledge does have a whole section on the song culture thing. Singing is not just a side bit of entertainment. It's a song itself is thematically significant for the hero. Song and poetry, they are the mechanism of their immortalization. So it's not an irrelevant digression to talk about the music. So, anyways,
well, the music and the muses.
Yes.
Because I liked the way that they used the muses to give us that background, and to introduce the plot. Again, very Homeric style, that they would come in and basically tell us the premise of the entire movie immediately upon arriving as a preview to walk us through the rest of the whole movie, right?
Exactly.
But in the criticism that Lindsay Ellis gave as a talking about storytelling modernly, is that his song "Go the Distance," where Hercules says what he wants, is more of a "Who am I" song than a "I want" song necessarily. He says, I've often dreamed of a far off place where a great warm welcome will be waiting for me. He wants everyone to love him. I can find my way. I can go the distance. I'll be strong. All this stuff. Like, I would go most anywhere to feel like I belong. The thing is, as in this context of Disney stories, that's not a very strong "I want" song, but it is actually pretty reasonably good Greek song of what it would be like to want to be immortalized.
Oh my gosh. This just occurred to me. You know what these clever bastards did? They worked the idea of nostalgia. Nostalgios. Yeah. They worked the idea of longing for a homecoming, because his "Who Am I" song is an "I want" song within the context of him sensing that he is not at home.
Yeah.
He's longing for home. So it's so unbelievably clever.
It's so good. Okay. So then we have to talk about probably one of my favorite songs that's ever been written. It's sung by Danny DeVito, so that means anyone can sing it, okay? But it's called "One Last Hope," and it's the training montage song where Philatides begrudgingly agrees. He's like, a lot of yusses. I trained a lot of yusses. And he's got the ship of Perseus, and he's got Achilles, and he's like, I thought these guys could go the distance, but like, all of them, all of them failed. So he says, so you want to be a hero, kid? Well, whoop-de-doo. I've been around the block before with blockheads just like you. I want to skip ahead. He agrees to do it. Zeus basically sends a thunderbolt and zaps him, and he's like, okay, I'll do it. I've given up hope that someone would come along, a fellow who'd ring the bell for once, not the gong. The kind who wins trophies, won't settle for low fees. At least semi-pro fees, but no, I get the greenhorn. Of course, he's portrayed as a goat, so he's like, I've been out to pasture, my ambition's gone. Content to spend lazy days and graze my lawn. But you need an advisor, a satyr but wiser, a good merchandiser. And there goes my ulcer. I'm down to one last hope, and I hope it's you. Though, kid, you're not exactly a dream come true. Demigods have faced the odds and ended up a mockery. Don't believe the stories that you read on all the crockery.
Don't believe the stories that you read on the crockery is that could be unwrapped.
Well, followed by the next line, which I'm like, again, your fucking source material. He says, to be a true hero, kid, is a dying art.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I was like, oh my god.
It is literally the art of dying. It's as Knowledge would say, it's you script your own death, is the idea.
Like painting a masterpiece, it's a work of heart. It takes more than sinew. It comes down to what's in you. You have to continue to grow. Anyway, before that blasted underworld gets my goat. Haha. Anyway.
As an aside, this profoundly unmusical song is the song we threaten each other with at bedtime if we go to bed past 11.
If we go to bed too late, we're going to listen to Danny DeVito sing One Last Hope.
It's not exactly a song to get you in the mood, but, well, not for that. For something.
So, but I loved that line because, again, like, it works poetically as a figure of speech, but it also is so deeply exactly what the hell we are talking about for the Greeks. That to be a true hero kid is a dying art. It's like painting a masterpiece. It's a work of heart.
It's perfect. It could not
truly
be
perfect.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that such a good song. So underrated.
To fill in the blanks here, because we're probably saying a lot of things that people are like, what are you talking about? I think I can quote Greg Nodge more or less verbatim when he talks about the true moment of a hero's seasonality is not even the moment that they save other people. That's the thing that makes them memorable, makes them worthy. But it's the true moment of their seasonality is actually the moment of their death. That is the most memorable moment. That is the thing that will immortalize them.
Yeah.
And their death is the price they have to pay to become immortalized.
Yeah. Anything less than that, and you aren't going to get songs written about you.
You, in a way, you can't be a hero without dying. And I've been having a lot of conversations with Christians in the last, year or so about Jesus
last
being
decade or so, but okay.
About Jesus being a perfect hero. Like Jesus's death on the cross is his moment of, it's his passion.
Yeah.
That's the passion. It's his work of heart. That's what it comes down to, and of course coming back to life. But that's the immortalization.
Right.
That's the kleos.
He wouldn't be Jesus if he didn't die on the cross. So he would just be some other guy who said he knew what God said.
Right.
Right. Were you going somewhere with the Jesus reference?
No. Just an example of another case of the hero's moment being their death.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
and so I think that some criticisms of Hercules as a Disney story revolve around the fact that his resolution at the end being that he finally achieves immortality, but then he's like, but actually I found the love of a good woman, so now I'm okay. And I don't need to go be a god with my dad and everyone else who I'm related to. I'm good just being back on Earth with her. Is a little bit...
it's a bit of a Disneyfication.
It's a Disneyfication, and it kind of misses the I want premise of the beginning, but only to the degree that, like you said, what he was looking for is that Nostos experience of coming home. And the thing is, he didn't belong in Olympus. He had never really been there.
Yeah.
So for him to go home...
But he still got the experience of the homecoming, though.
Yes.
He doesn't have to stay there. There's actually
and he also might, go home with Megara, who he actually could have lived with and spent some time with, who's from the same place where he is.
Right.
So, et cetera, et cetera. Get married.
Exactly. Yeah, there's actually a very interesting book by Nikos Kazantzakis called The Odyssey, a Modern Sequel, where the premise is that Odysseus has been home for a while, and he's now getting restless. And he has to go out on another adventure. So the longing for home doesn't actually necessarily imply an obligation to stay there. You just want to return. Another friend of mine, Air Force military guy, was posting a joke some long time ago. He says, guys have two moods. One of them is some space marine combat scene. Fighting xenomorphs or whatever, and the other one was being at home with your wife and children in a field. This very bucolic scene, and he's like, and it's always funny. You always feel the one when you're in the other place. It's in the moment where you're in intense combat where you're like, man, I wish I could be at home with my kids and wife. And then when you're at home with your wife and kids, I want adventure and combat. and there is a tension there. So, anyways, it's it's uncanonical, but it's not like anti-canonical.
No,
To have
actually,
that
I'm checking
homecoming.
some Wikipedia here, and just because I was like, didn't he kill Meg? Yeah. So the thing is, like Chris said, in the original texts, Hera makes Hercules crazy, and also they spell his name Heracles, which makes his connection to Hera, a lot clearer, obviously.
Right. Greek spelling can get a little complicated.
So, yeah, so Hera sends him into a fit of madness. He proceeds to kill all of Meg's children, and probably also her. And then to atone for the fact that he killed his own wife and children, he becomes a slave to his cousin, and then he performs his 12 labors that go on to be, his accumulation of Time glory, blah, blah, blah. Something else, I'm currently reading about Meg, not about Hercules specifically, but yeah, so probably not super Disney-able, so having them just get together at the end is fine.
Yeah. Well, and making it appropriate for the correct audience can still be keeping to the spirit of the story. Maybe it's worth closing on this subject. We don't need to have a super long one. Like, what does it mean for a story to stay true to the spirit of the source text? I've recently, I've heard some people online say that Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings was an abomination, and it wasn't faithful to the Lord of the Rings books. So I'm like, I've read the books; they were really faithful. I thought they were really, really good.
The only thing is, I don't understand where Tom Bombadil went in any interpretation. Everybody has made it in film.
They don't.
But anyway.
You can't include. I mean, you could include a lot of things,
everybody, but I'm just saying, where's Bombadil, man?
If your idea of staying true to the source material is including every precise event that happens in the books, that's one notion of faithfulness. But I feel like that's a very amateurish.
Well, but see, this is very much like the two. I remember learning about this when we were in our Christian phase. The difference between a literal word for word translation and a concept for concept translation. And I think that's the spirit of what that is, right? Like, do you want every single scene played out exactly and all the dialogues faithfully? In which case, you should watch the 1995 Pride and Prejudice, not the one from BBC, or vice versa. I don't know. I'm not into Pride and Prejudice. I just know that one of them is like word for word, exactly like the books. Well, that's easy when it's a
mostly interior, mostly descriptions, single book about about one thing. Like, Pride and Prejudice is not that hard to adapt.
People just going to other people's houses, right?
Oh my god, people going to other people's houses.
Sorry.
I'm not a Pride and Prejudice girl, but but if you're going for concept for concept, I would say Peter Jackson's interpretation of Lord of the Rings is pretty fucking good. I know that it didn't necessarily have the blessing of the Tolkien kids, but
which is fine. I'm
my impression is that once he saw them, he kind of came around. So I know he didn't want to sign off on it, but he eventually came around on it.
Well, it's because if you've read the books, the books are attempting to capture something ancient in European and especially English history. There's a certain spirit of Englishness that is captured in those stories. It's drawing from a lot of myths. The name Gandalf comes from one of these old sagas, in fact. And does the movie capture that element and convey it also? It absolutely does. Absolutely it does. And I think it captures the nature of magic as portrayed in the books very well. It's not excessive. It's subtle.
The thing
it's just so it conveys that spirit.
Conversation about Lord of the Rings, but after having watched the 1970s cartoon version of Lord of the Rings that Christopher Tolkien had signed off on, there's also something about the layering of interpretations, because obviously the Hercules is a story that has been with us so much longer, so there is such a deep fabric and web to work with of various interpretations, various translations and iterations and details, and like different, even at the time when the oldest versions that we have, there are multiple references to Hercules, so there's many facets to possibly bring out of this character if we're doing a modern interpretation. But the thing is, when looking at like where does this fit into the quality pantheon of the different interpretations, obviously, like, we're having to segregate over here into like kid content, made for film, has music, whatever. But I think because of some of these little touch points, it does a actually very good job, like saying that, to be a true hero kid is a dying art. The way that they utilize the concept of being basically like a sports hero as a way to convey that team A, because he even at one point goes and says to Zeus, like, look at me, I'm an action figure. And Zeus is like, yeah, but you haven't done what it takes to be a true hero yet. And he doesn't give him the answer either. He goes back to Zeus and says, dude, have I done it yet? And Zeus is like, no. But he doesn't say, because you need to die. He says, you need to do what is required to become a true hero, which necessarily requires him to die, because like you said, that is what it is to be a hero, is to reach your ultimate aim of being there in the moment when you're needed and then dying, which is it, right? The thing I was going to say, the thing I was going to say about Lord of the Rings is that the cartoon version that they did in the 70s has scenes and angles and shots that are almost verbatim what Peter Jackson pulled forward in his movies. And what that says to me as a lay person who just passionately cares about this stuff for absolutely no reason is that, like, you're building on that lore. You're taking all...
It's a nod to and a demonstration of respect for the canon that you're building upon.
Yes, and a faithfulness to the works that have gone before you to help carve the path and the way for you to be making this version now. And I think that's what you see a little bit with Hercules, with, some Disney shine.
Not to make it about something completely different, but I think...
I also want to talk about Harry Potter and the interpretation of that.
I think one way you could view it, and this is only a rough heuristic, but one sort of heuristic starting point is, does the interpretation convey good intentions in relation to
and you could say
the
that
source
the Rings
material?
of Power does not.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Zero respect.
We rebuke that. We do not accept them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing it with Harry Potter, and the thing with Harry Potter is, like, with the first couple of Harry Potter movies, you get a pretty word-for-word and fairly faithful adaptation of a translation of the books into film. The problem is those books are really fucking big.
Actually,
and each of them...
we should save this, because there's a whole podcast to discuss about Harry Potter and heroism, too.
Oh,
that's kind of just an extension of Christianity, though.
Yeah, well, that's its own thing that I can't believe I read that book. I read that entire series 12.5 times before it occurred to me that he was Jesus, and I'm like, what? So,
yeah, for people who don't know, Harry Potter is a Christian story, which makes all the, like, 2000s Christian hates of Harry Potter, like, really ironic. They hated Lord of the Rings too, which is even more explicitly Christian. Yeah.
They're like, well, we like Narnia. And I'm like, have you tried to read any of the last couple of those books? Only the first few were good. He lost steam, okay? I love you.
They're good. They're good. They're just very esoteric.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They stop. The relatability, like, kind of drops off there after Prince Caspian. Anyway. The thing about, there's a bunch of controversy going on specifically right now about their rebooting. When they did the Harry Potter movies back in the 00s and early 10s, I think, I don't even know when the last movie came out. How old am I? Anyway, I remember it at the time. There's only so much you can do because the concept of serial movies had not yet come out. You could sit through one really long-ass movie, but people were not doing, like, 2-part films, or we hadn't invented the concept of binge watching a 10-episode show that's got movie quality production, but it's, 10 hours of content instead of 1.5 hours of content, right? So like they were very limited with what they had to work with, so there's so much that gets lost. They're trying to reboot it now with, I think it's HBO is making a new version of Harry Potter, and now they're immediately under fire for the fact that they're trying to like race bend a bunch of the characters.
It was already racially diverse, so you don't need to race bend. You've already got
a diversity of characters. Making Snape black doesn't make sense because what that does is it adds a layer of racial or implied tension. The thing that's interesting about it is that it adds a layer of tension to. Okay, hang on. Let me say this correctly.
Well,
hang on.
Source material.
Well, yes, but for what reason? Because what's the difference between making Hercules set in New York style Greece versus Snape being black? Well, Snape being black in the Harry Potter world is a real problem. First of all, because it's not faithful to the source material, and that's what you said you were going to do with this mission to make, each season of this HBO show is going to be one of the Harry Potter books. So we're going to have it's going to be very faithful is what they're promising. But it takes all of the tension between specifically James Potter and Severus Snape and makes it racist-y, not in a helpful way.
No, it changes the plot. It
fundamentally changes the dynamic. Whereas relating Thebes to being like modern day New York City,
that's like a metaphor or an analogy. Almost.
Yeah, it makes it relatable. It makes it conceivable to a modern audience, and it takes behaviors that you would have done in Thebes anyway, like meet at the water, like the fountain in town, and talk, and have carts and people bustling through, and then makes it a little bit more fun and modern by making it seem like there's like you're in a city.
And it's not like these changes that make the story more accessible or modern to a modern or perhaps a younger or both audience. It's not like those don't have any effect on the plot, but there's a difference you can notice between effects on the plot that are sort of incidental or accidental versus shifts that feel ideological.
Yes.
That feels like they are trying to push something into the text that was not there before.
Yes. So I will bring it home for you by summarizing this thought related to tie it to Harry Potter and then back to Greece in the form of Emily Wilson, and then we will close the podcast. The dynamic that happens between James Potter, Harry's dad, who is a pureblood wizard, against Snape, who is only a half-blood. If you layer on top of that, there is a universe where you could make a conversation about the blood statuses of the wizards as being like racism. I get that, but the problem falls in the fact that you put I can't remember who they have cast as Snape, but he's a very black guy. That is not the same as a half-blood.
You'd have to use a mulatto, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't. You lose something of the spirit when you don't
Wasn't Voldemort himself like?
Voldemort is also a half-blood, so does it if it's going to be a race thing, then shouldn't Voldemort be mulatto also? Shouldn't this be a whole mixed cast? And I mean, I know that in long time ago, J.K. loves to be not racist, but hates trans people, which more power to you, babe. But
she likes women.
Yeah, she likes women, but who are women, and she knows what a woman is.
Unlike Ketanji Brown.
Like many people, apparently. And so anyway, if you're going to give a race overlay with the idea, on any level, the idea being that you're going to make this more relatable to a modern audience, then you have to do it faithfully and consistently throughout the books, and that's not what they're doing. They're just picking I don't know why the hell they're picking this black guy to be Snape.
There is a difference, I think, in spirit, too, between using... So I'm going to bring in another random tangential character. No. So there's a way that you can... There's a way that you can change the scenery to make the themes more relatable to the audience, or there's a way that you can change the themes to make the scenery more relatable to the audience.
Okay.
that's, I think, the best way of putting it. And
Yeah.
I think so much of the modern adaptations of things generally, not Hercules,
Not
but
Hercules.
maybe the Rings of Power and some other things, are changing the themes to make the scenery more relatable. And it doesn't work. It doesn't bring the heart of the story to the audience. Whereas good adaptations are willing to change the scenery, but in order to make the themes more accessible.
Yes, very
bring that
excellent.
in. And I think that's what Hercules does very well. It is very liberal in changing the scenery. You know,
Yeah.
we've got black gospel singers, we've got a New York sort of personality to the characters and everything. But it's true to the themes.
Yeah.
And I think that's something admirable that people looking to create new interpretations of old stories can learn from.
Yeah, and Emily Wilson could take a note out of that because again, with like if you take a character who you like, or you take a character who has some combination of good and bad qualities, and then you fundamentally change a critical component of that character in order to push your agenda.
Yeah,
that's no longer an adaptation. That's an interpretation. That's
and it's
something
using the story as a skin suit for things. So I think let's close on a positive note. I think
Hercules is great.
It does, and it does. It's not just staying true to the, because you could stay true to the themes of the original story while adapting the scenery to make it more accessible and do it badly.
Yeah.
Right? But Hercules actually does it well. And
Yeah.
that's its own point in favor as well.
And it's fun, and the music is good, and it's wholesome, and I guess he tried to say that it's a little bit solar. I think the most solar aspect of it is the striving and the believing that you can make the future you want. That you have you are Hercules is fundamentally driving upward, and
it's
his
aspirational
reward
towards
and his reward for driving upward is a lot of fucking riches, which I'm sorry doesn't suck. That is not a bad
absolutely
outcome
does not
along
suck.
the way. It does not suck.
And even if you don't ultimately achieve godhood, which is the goal, you still, I hate quoting lame bumper sticker aphorisms. I don't even want to say it.
Say it.
If you aim for the moon,
You'll
still live on the stars. Which is like a line from Philoctetes' songs. I think that's a good place to close it. Any final words?
Nope, go on. The old Disney. Oh, you asked me about what is the Disney Renaissance. The Disney Renaissance was the period from approximately The Lion King through Tarzan, when Disney was run by Alan Menken did all the music. Yeah, Alan Menken did all the music, and
Philoctetes got replaced by Phil Collins.
No, hang on. What's the name of the? Oh God.
I don't care.
Okay. Anyway, there was a particularly famous guy who was the CEO of Disney, who revitalized Disney and brought tons of great movies. All of the
Sure, that wasn't Phil Collins?
Okay, look, there are a couple of eras of Disney.
I'm
I gotta
pretty
get this in
Phil
quick
Collins.
before the movie ends. Okay, so before the podcast is over, I gotta tell you that there's the original Walt Disney era of Disney movies. Then there were the ones that came after Walt died, but were still in production when he was alive. Then there's the period where Disney really freaking slumped and really struggled because Walt wasn't there. His brother was trying to run the ship, and they didn't have good direction. Then they got a new CEO whose name I can't think of because I'm a little pregnant, so I can't think of anything. But it was really a rough period of time.
We're after the podcast.
And then this guy whose name I can't think of took over Disney and made just banger after banger. Lion King, Aladdin, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Tarzan, Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Hercules. And then the very tail end is like Mulan was at the end there. And then we haven't really had a good Disney. We had a handful of decent Disney movies since. But basically after that you get into the Pixar era. So anyway, that's a good place to close it.
That's good. We can talk about Moana and other stuff later.
Oh God, Moana.
Well, we'll come up with it later. Thanks so much for listening, and take care.